So today we're going to talk about creating accessible PDF documents for the website. So the first question we usually ask content editors when they're considering uploading a PDF to the website is, does this information really need to live in PDF form, or can it be converted to a web page? Can the text and the photos be added as a regular web page versus uploading the PDF? If it's in the format of a web page, it's easier for users to understand and navigate. It has the same stylings as the rest of the website. They're not clicking a link into another different format. So really consider if it can live as a web page, please do add it as a web page versus a PDF, mainly because it's also, there's more steps to making a PDF accessible than just adding it as a regular web page and making sure it's accessible that way. However, if you need to add a PDF, I'm going to show you how to do it in Word, how to make sure it's accessible. So first of all, instead of creating like headings just with bolded text and larger size, you want to use the actual title and heading tags that you see at the top of your document. So here I have the title, and then for the actual headings, I have heading 1 and then info underneath and then heading 2. And so that just gives screen readers an understanding of how the page is set up and how to read that page to users with screen readers. So the second tip is, if you have a bulleted list, do use the bulleted list icon, and then for sequential information, use the numbered list as well. And then when you're adding a table, just whenever possible, don't add a table to a document. It's just very difficult for screen readers. But if you need to, remember that tables best serve for numerical data versus just making sure, double photos are formatted properly. That's confusing for screen readers. So consider using them for numerical data only. And the first one step you need to make sure you do is to highlight the first table or the first row in the table, and then control click or right click and click table properties, and then select repeat as header row at the top of each page. So you need to check that and hit OK. That tells the coding of this document that this is the heading section of the document. So if you want to have your categories of information up here, that's what the header tag does with that, and then you have your regular data underneath. So that's one important step in making your tables accessible. Now we're going to add an image. So insert, we'll just do one right here. Oh, I don't have any photos. Oops, sorry. Photo browser, and then we'll just select a general image. Let's do these. So I'm going to drag that on. And then one important thing to remember with images is that they need to have alternative text or it will not be rendered as accessible. So you need to control click or right click and select format picture. And then over here you'll see this navigational button, and it does not need a title, but you do need to edit the description. That's where you'll put your alternative text. So tulips, that's really all that's needed for this, but I do have another video on how to write proper alternative text that's contextual to the picture. So that is saved, and that image is accessible now. And then another important step that maybe people don't do now is to make sure that the document language is set. So you'll see at the bottom of my page, it says English US. So mine is already set to English, but to make sure that that's checked, you need to go to Tools, Language, and select English and OK, because sometimes your Word doesn't set it as English, and you need to make sure that it's English so screen readers can understand the language. One of the final steps then, when you save the document, I'm going to save this as a Word doc first, and then I'm going to export it as a PDF for the website. So we're going to save as, and then when we change it to PDF, I'm just going to leave it as sample title. You need to make sure that best for electronic distribution and accessibility is checked. that will allow it to keep the coding that we just added to make it accessible. So then you clicked export. Now the final step that you need to do if you're uploading them to the website is you need to check it in Acrobat Pro, because there are some errors that happen when converting out of Microsoft Word into a PDF. So to ensure it's 100% accessible, we use Adobe Acrobat. So you're going to go into Adobe and File and open the file. And I just created that. And over on the at the top of the page, you'll see Tools. So select Tools and Accessibility. And then over on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a button that says Full Check, and this is just going to check it for accessibility. And you'll hit Full Check, and you want all of those items selected because it'll check for all the relevant tags. Start checking, and then it'll tell you the issues. And at that point, it'll tell you what you need to go in and add right in Acrobat to make sure that everything is accessible. The title field often fails exporting out of Microsoft, so that's something you can fix and add right in Adobe Acrobat. And then anything else that you need help with or have questions on how to fix, you can email websupport@sdstate.edu and we will help you get everything accessible. But it's pretty straightforward once you get into Acrobat and are making the final accessibility changes. So thank you so much for watching, and that's all.